So ES and Q are
Good morning, Manoj. How are you?
I'm good, Mukund. How are you? How is everyone?
Everything is good. I'm sorry we weren't able to connect yesterday. I was flying back from San Diego. I had actually gone for a conference. Beautiful weather, just like Seattle. Somehow Seattle seems to be as warm and as sunny as San Diego this time of year. Well, summer, right? Everything is warm.
Last week here, the weather was horrible. Normally we don't get more than 100 degrees, but it was 105, 107. I wasn't able to bear the heat. You have to
No,
keep your air conditioner on for in the car for at least 10, 15 minutes before you get into the car and start driving.
yeah, here it's about 80s or so, which is okay. I think to a large extent we seem to be doing okay. Okay, good. Let's get into it. Sorry, we are coming to you one day uh, later because I had to get out for a conference. Let's do a quick recap from last week, Manoj. We mentioned MARA and RIOT. MARA is up about 10.4% for the week. RIOT is about 3%. It's still not broken out yet. Bitcoin Ethereum still doing okay. So I think last week the picks that we had were good. We had mentioned also SPY, IWM, and also QQQ. Seemed like the strength was in QQQ more, in NASDAQ more than it was in SPY. But still, strong markets overall last week.
Right.
Seemed like we had hit all of the reset that we had done the week before. Gained some as well. So let's quickly go through the charts really first for how we did for the week. Let's start with SPY and then go to the Russell and then finally to NASDAQ or any order. Manoj?
Sure. So you have to enable the chart sharing. Your voice is not coming, Mukund.
How about now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay, let's start with SPY. We broke out of the range.
Oh, yes. So here is the ES, which is SPY. Last week, what had happened was we had broken down of this long-term, not long-term, but at least for last 1 month's channel. Assumption was that here is after the backtest, it might fall off. But at the same time, there was this bullish channel, bullish flag, which was forming. So what happened was we broke out of this bullish flag. Apart from this breakout, we also entered back into the channel which we actually had broken down of, which means we can name this as a false breakdown, and this is rather breaking out further. What it indicates is not only these highs are already breaking out. These highs have already broken out of. So the previous high was somewhere around give me 1 second. Let me the previous high was what 4,500 4,593, and now we made a high of 4,598, almost 4,500. Chances are we might actually scale past this and then start retracting something because the momentum and RSI might start giving you a signal of some kind of pull-off which is required. Whether it results in the form of correction or in the form of consolidation is remains to be seen. But as of now, it looks like a market worth rallying and worth placing a bets on the long side for. I started buying here when the breakout actually happened somewhere in the what?
44-27 range.
Yeah, Wednesday. Wednesday is when market started rallying. That's when I started participating in this rally and I was making money. Not only this, look at QQQ, which is NASDAQ. Here you go.
Yeah.
So I actually wasn't very sure whether this rally will start, on the upside because NASDAQ actually participated very late in this rally. It was on Thursday, whereas ES had already broken out on Wednesday. So I wasn't very sure if NASDAQ is not participating, if ES would be able to, rally further, but it indeed did. After this, claw back a little bit from here, and then again it broke out. So definitely we are in the safe zone, and it looks like even NASDAQ will be crossing past this previous high of 15,480, 490. And I would definitely be aiming for somewhere around, say, 15,600 kind of level before we say that, hey, it's time for some correction or some consolidation. Whether it is consolidation or correction, it again depends upon how markets wants to take us. But so far, it looks like, buy on dip kind of a market.
Yeah, no, this one is an incredibly bullish market, man. I think through the first couple of weeks of July, I don't see anything but a little bit higher until we get to earnings. when we start in the second week of July with Netflix picking up and moving on from there, from Apple and everybody else. This looks like an incredibly bullish market. The only question is going to be how good are these earnings coming up in the next quarter.
Right. Now, this one is one of the most important chart that has always remained before me for the at least last 2-3 months. As we have been talking about, unless and until small caps participate in this rally will not, be called as a bullish rally. We had this breakout somewhere in the month of June, so start of June, this breakout happened. And this backtest was at the risk of breaking down further because we had broken down of the 20 MA as well. But it sustained just at the breakout level itself. This was the breakout point, sustained here, and then boom. This was the reason why actually I was actually more bullish on IWM this whole week,
right,
rather than being on ES and NQQ, because it actually sustained this and then continues the rally is a sign of this market doesn't want to stop here. It has more legs. We are probably heading towards 2000 off on Russell 2000, which is like 200 on the IWM. So I keep placing my bets on the long side, and every dip is a buying opportunity for me, especially in the small cap index.
The small cap going from 1900 to 2000, 1903 right now, where it is, to 2013 is where I predicted. It's going to just keep going up next week, barring any ridiculous news, either war or something else, because there's no headwind. There was no tailwind. Seems like the market wanted to go up. Now there's no headwind either.
Absolutely. The only reason that gives me a little kind of a caution is if you look at the momentum, MACD is so when this thing might make a new high. I just want this MACD also to make a new high. If it doesn't make a new high and market kind of it gives you a choppy movement or consolidation, that's a sign that you want to at least not be aggressively long. I would not be short, but I would definitely not be aggressively long when momentum is fading away. And RSI is also giving you sign of hitting up. That would be my sign of not being aggressively long. Right now, I am long, and I would continue to prefer buying the dips. But when momentum starts fading off, I would be really cautious.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think overall I agree with you. The market seems strong. I think IWM seems a little bit more strong than any of the others, but still, I think there is room for being cautious just on the side of the fact that this is going to retest a couple of times at least, is at least the general feeling. Because if you look at it consistently, it has been doing at least a 3 retest in most cases.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about last week. We did very well with the MARA call at 10.5%. RIOT was also good, but it's not broken out yet. So I will still watch RIOT for next week. So quickly wrapping up earnings from last week. The only big earnings from last week was Nike. Manoj, that I was not following it as much as I was interested in it. I'd done a quick trade on the options for Nike 2 weeks ago or so when it hit down. So it went down to 108 at that time and then rallied up to 114 and then started breaking down. So Nike at $114 a share broke down again before earnings by 6%. They announced earnings. Revenue was 12.8 billion. So they beat revenue estimates. The estimated revenue was 12.5 billion. So they beat revenue, but they missed their earnings per share. They were expecting 67 cents a share. They reported 66 cents a share. The big challenge being gross margins were down to 63% versus, 43% versus 44%, which was expected. Stock went from 114 to 108 and then recovered a little bit yesterday to 110. But still, I think this is going to be weakness for some time is the only thing that I was looking for. In terms of earnings, that was the only one. No big earnings next week except for Levi's, which is on Thursday. And next week is a light week anyway because of July 4th, right?
Right.
I'm not expecting any. I'm not following any earnings next week. Levi's, I don't follow the stock. I know that that's the only stock reporting next week that is major. But the stocks that I'm following that showed up on my radar, let's go through them one by one. The 5 of them actually. Lulu, Chewy on the retail and the internet side, Snap, Unity, and Rivian. Those are the ones that I think will do well next week. I'm sure a lot of other stocks will do as well. But let's start with Unity first, and then we'll go through the rest of them. Unity is a gaming stock, eventually has showed up in the AI radar, or the people just ignored it during the AI thing, the rally that went up for the first 6 months. But Unity is a gaming engine stock, good stock, along with Roblox was mentioned as a strong stock. But how's the chart looking? Seems like a lot of
So I had actually, I've been long on Unity last time when it had broken out, and then I moved out when the stock somewhere, started pitching off around 43, 44. So I moved out around 43. I did not follow through after that because I was more into futures and I was not looking into stocks. But definitely, chart looks good now. It has given the breakout. It again did the
Yes.
mean reversion as well, and now again, rallying past the supply zone as well. So I would say that stock is buy on this kind of a stock, and any dips is a buying opportunity in this stock. It has given a breakout of the triangle. It has given a supply zone. It has crossed past the supply zone as well and given the mean reversion as well. So I would say it's a buy on dip stock.
My thinking was enter at the 43, exit at the 50 range.
50 range, I would say it might even be targeting this 58 kind of a level because that's the only thing that looks like a logical
First
resistance
resistance seemed
area.
to be in the first resistance to me seemed to be in the 50 range. I thought 50 point something,
Yeah.
950 range. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're
Somewhere
saying
around there.
has actually, yeah, it has got strength all the way up till 56, 58 range as well.
Right.
Yeah, that was Unity. Unity, again, as I mentioned, is a game engine stock. Very, very strong. I'm hoping that they do well. It's a good company. I tend to follow very strong fundamental companies that do fundamentally very well. Chewy is another one that had a gap up because of earnings, strong earnings gap up. They announced earnings a few weeks ago, extremely strong earnings, and I'm hoping that that translates into more momentum going forward. They took a little bit of a break because of the COVID upturn and then the downturn as well, but I have not entered the position yet. I'm looking to enter a position.
So it looks like a good stock, but as of now, if you look at since last year, it has been consolidating in this big range of 52 and 28.
Yeah, 30.
39. So it has been in this range. So this is kind of a low base formation. But since the company is good and the stock seems to be showing some momentum by crossing past these resistance zones, so 20 MAs, 50 MAs, and 200 MAs, I would say it is trying to focus, maybe trying to reach this upper end of this consolidation zone. Unless it breaks past it, you will not say that it is targeting on the all-time highs anytime soon. But as of now, yes, it is heading towards this upper end of this particular consolidation range. So I would say it is heading upwards, but definitely I would not be targeting beyond 52 as of now.
The
Again,
fact that
52
it
is a
crossed,
big range, 20% above.
yeah, the fact that
30%.
it crossed the MAs, all three MAs were just
Yes,
crossed. Why?
yes,
And
it's a good
actually
sign.
had a green candle on Friday, so I was pretty excited about that overall.
Right.
Yeah, so I was thinking just as a short-term entry, 39 something, 37, between 38 and 39 is the entry, and exit somewhere in the range of about 45. 44, 45 was
Should easily do maybe around 48, 49, if not 52. So 48, 59 is somewhere around. So this 47 to 49 is the range where I would, think of maybe the stock should peter off.
This is
If
a daily
not
chart.
52.
This is a daily chart, correct?
Yes, daily chart.
So this would be, 39 entry, 38, 39 entry, 47.50 target in about a week and a half, 5 to 7, say, 7 to even maybe even a little bit more, 7 to 10 trading days would be my thinking if there is, because, and given this is the perfect timing.
Right.
Major earnings to disrupt anybody, or I don't know how earnings are going to show up next quarter, to be honest, given that Apple is at 3 trillion right now. They're one of the first
Yeah.
bellwethers coming up,
Yes,
right?
that's in actually different league altogether.
Yeah, if they
No
sneeze,
matter what kind of technicals you want to see on Apple, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you can make a rising wedge, you can make a channel, but it doesn't still make sense.
yeah,
It's
no, I think the challenge is if Apple sneezes on earnings, everybody else will catch a cold. So I'm
right.
a little bit worried about this earnings from that standpoint. If one or two strong stocks start to show, yeah, we're not going to get into the recession timeframe yet. And by the way, Apple's earnings were not great. The stock is doing well, but the earnings were not great last quarter. They were good. They had a little bit of a retraction, but still the stock has been performing like
I'm
this.
just wondering if it's got to do anything with the new headset that they have launched. Maybe that has got some momentum kicking in for them.
Yeah, no, but the earnings were not great, Manoj.
Yeah, I know.
Chewy, that's Chewy. So we talked about Unity and we talked about Chewy. Lululemon is the next one. Extremely strong gap up on earnings. Very, very good stock.
Yes. And all the signs of a breakout now. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next week itself it breaks out of this particular triangle. And if it breaks out, we are looking for 433 or maybe around 476 also. Somewhere around 433, 476, once it breaks past this particular triangle zone. My gut says in the next 1 week itself, we should be seeing a breakout.
Yeah, I definitely was targeting a breakout for somewhere in the next week, right? I'm thinking the week. So my entry was going to be somewhere in the 370 range. If it goes down to 375, 373, 370 would be good, but I don't think so. And then shoot for 440, kind of a 420, 440 kind of range.
Right. So the reason I'm saying this, I'm more bullish is because normally the signs of breakout is what happens is, so for example, this is a resistance. Clearly visible that it's a resistance area where market should respect this level. It resisted here, did not test the new low again, the lower end of the triangle.
So it's doing higher low.
Yes, and again it tested, again gave some kind of a correction, but again it did not even test the earlier low. Now again tested another higher low, and this time it tested 20 and 50 MA and then again sustained and now again rallying further. I wouldn't be surprised that it doesn't make any new higher low and this crosses past this resistance and then we are all the way breaking out and then again gives a back test and then we have a heading out towards 470 kind of a level. So that's a sign that it wants to break out.
The other reason why, Manoj, I like this, I think a lot of people ask me, why did you pick this versus that, right? I do 3 scans. So after we finish all the charts, I'll just quickly talk about how I come to my list of stocks to watch for the week. But another thing that played in my mind, Manoj, was Nike didn't have great earnings. Stocks told off. You'll find Nike and Lulu almost always having the people move from one stock and invest in the other and move that way, right? Depending, of course, sometimes when both of them do well. But Lulu has had terrific earnings, and I think they're going to.
That's surprising because Nike is a bigger brand, and yet Lulu is outpacing it. So that's a good news for the Lulu investors.
Yeah, no, I think Lulu has been executing very, 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 very well. So I'm positive on the stock. So Lululemon, another one you should expect to do very well next week. The last 2 stocks on our list, one was really bad, but it showed up on my scan saying, hey, look up Snap because it's going to form a breakout, but it hasn't broken out yet. Snap is not a great stock, but still it showed up on my scan. So I'm going to keep it on my radar. This is one of the weakest of the 5, Manoj.
Yes. So I would say it is sitting on the cusp of a breakout. I'm not very bullish. I don't follow this stock very frequently, but since it is giving me some signs of a breakout, I would say yes, there is a chance of it breaking out of this particular low base, which has been forming for last 7-8 months now, or maybe more, since October of last year. If it breaks out of this particular zone, maybe
17.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, so 17, 16 kind of a level, first resistance, and then the second would be around 21 kind of level.
21 was the gap down.
Yes, the gap. So maybe it tries to cover up the entire gap which is there between this kind of 21 and 14. So this level would be covered probably. So 21, 16, and then 21.
The stock is at 1184 now, correct?
Yeah, 1184.
Yeah, I think the first target is just going to try and break out of this range. 12.1, 12.2 range, get out of the supply zone and then target 14 and then target 21. So I think there's a lot of ways to go. This is not going to go up anywhere anytime soon. This is a slow moving stock. Probably in the next couple of weeks to 4 weeks is when this might actually even try to break out. But the last one I wanted to talk about is Rivian. I've been bullish on this for the last 1 week. I've had extremely good.
You're absolutely bang on being bullish on the stock. Looks it has already broken out.
Yeah.
So I would say that the breakout is already there. Resistance somewhere around here, 1820, 1830. And then this particular area where 200 MA and the top of 2021 is there.
I was thinking more 21, right? I'm going to hold it all the way to 21. And I saw I don't usually buy on the lowest ticker. I'm not one of those, okay, I want to buy it exactly at the lowest point. I want confirmed breakout. So I started buying in the 1451 range. It's already up to 16. I'm hoping for a 20 range from this one, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take at least a couple of, maybe 5 to 10 sessions.
So here's something what I would like to talk about the breakout which you spoke about. So in a bullish market like this, which we seem to be right now in, any breakouts would always test the back test and then succeed as well. But in the market like last year and the last year, those markets were not something where breakouts were sustaining. Breakouts were failing a lot of time. So whenever we see that breakouts have occurred and it is not sustaining, maybe it is breaking out, coming back to the breakout point and then failing, we should be very clear that markets are not giving us markets are giving us all the signs that it doesn't want to sustain on the at the long end anymore. So that would be the sign for the people to start taking off their bets. So even if you want to trade the breakouts has its own limitations as well.
So
just
of the five, just to give you my context, Lulu for me is the strongest, followed by Rivian, Chewy, and then Unity, either 3 or 4, and then Snap is the one that is I still think Snap will do well. I do believe Snap will do well, given the overall market. Meta has had a strong position going in. Google is the one that is showing a little bit of weakness, but Pins and Snap, I think there's time for them to be able to start showing. They didn't have great earnings, by the way. It's not as if I'm going this based on the earnings, but it's just the stock's been consolidating for so long. There are enough analysts also talking about it. Okay, so we'll wrap it up with just one quick thing. A lot of people ask questions, especially thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for the notes. Thank you for the comments. The thing that I think people have asked is, why do certain stocks make my radar? The obvious one is earnings, right? If earnings is coming up, then it's a catalyst. That is one. But when earnings don't come out, the stocks that show up usually are one of my 3 scans, right? Scan number 1 is I do a fundamental scan on earnings going up, meaning 30% earnings quarter over quarter, 30% growth, sales growth, and 30% earnings growth. And those show up on a certain scans and volume increasing. Right. So if I see relative volume going up to 1.1, 1.5%, then I'm going, okay, something is happening in this stock. That's one. The second one is I have a few services that I don't subscribe to fully, but I do get alerts from them that talk about options, unusual. There are services like Unusual Whales, Cheddar Flow, etc., that give you options flow data that tell you, hey, by the way, there's more option flow going into one place for the other. That's an interesting, maybe I get some of those and I say, okay, that is interesting. But what I found in those areas is 90% of the time, the unusual options that flow in of the big stocks, NVIDIA's, Tesla's, Apple's, those ones, right? So it isn't very much something that I'm going to go, oh my God, this is great, because you can do a short-term trade on those, but not very once in a while, once in a week, maybe once a week, or maybe sometimes twice a week, you'll get this suddenly coming in for Snap. You're like, what is going on? Why are so many people making bullish bets on Snap when the stock is nowhere? So that's a second, data point that I use. And then the last one typically tends to be social as well, right? So I do follow some very interesting people on Twitter, like everybody else does. And some people I've back tested their recommendations for a few weeks, and I found them to be more on the money than not. So those are the 3 that I use, Manoj, to be able to say, okay, this is an interesting stock. So I take all of those, put it into a spreadsheet. I get about 10 or 12, and I cut it down to about 3 or 4 that I'm going to focus on for the week. So that's the reason for why certain stocks make. Thank you very much, Manoj. It was a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
The fun. And